as I explain this, this is my plan. So when I say I talk in like we, and I mean we as a people, as a nation, as a, race, we, the royal we. With defined structure, anything can become normalized. Examples of what a mission statement could look like, which all intentionally and later leads to the scope of things and like the details. Well, this is what I think a mission statement about it, because what's happening now is so unbelievably disgusting, so unbelievably wrong. The slaves are tired of being decimated, destroyed, violated, defiled, decimated, desecrated. Let's start thinking about a plan forward, because if my plan doesn't work, will yours? Do you even have a plan? Do you even think about it? But like, seriously, we should really think about it, because tearing your children, boinking a little girl with a knife or a stick or any other manner of objects you have around is also heinous. It's putridly heinous. Do you know what? That is our future. Our future, which is severely diminishing rapidly, relies on that child you are boinking to death and terrorizing to death. Irreparably burning a child to an inch of their life and then proceeding to penetrate them or possibly they're desecrated or desecrate their bodies. Like, that is heinous. That's what I'm trying to stop. When you are boinking a baby with chopsticks and then proceeding to then penetrate the holes you make, that is terrorism. And I would like to define the child sex terrorism industry as such, a terrorist organization, and therefore should be treated as such, because the terror and pain that these terrorists, as i.e. your husbands, inflict upon children is so against God's plan that it defies logic. It defies reality, and it also terrorizes and tortures. And don't get me wrong, animals get it 100,000 times worse. And only to know that they are lost in this system is heinous. It's putridly heinous. So these are just some examples of what I believe the new mission statements, the new intentions of this industry. Because intentions are really, really key. Okay? Intentions usually set out your actions. And I'm like, if you have an intention to hurt, you will most likely hurt. If you have an intention to take advantage of, you will most likely take advantage. If you have intentions of betterment, enhancement, support, encouragement works better than anything else. And I mean anything. Like, holy shiza. But it's simple. Every slave deserves food and nourishing food, good food. If not, we can go healthy food, or we can just make the bad food good for us. Step 2 is really, 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 really important. Nourishment, hydration, and access to critical services, or access to services, or for short, care. And the second part so would be hydrating water. Water that hydrates you and like fulfills your requirement of daily intake of water, which is a lot more than what we're drinking. So the point of this is every slave will have food, nourishing food, and hydrating water so that their life is sustained past infancy. You don't need to be torturing and viciously mutilating and cutting holes and poking holes in children. Okay, I'm going to stop. They live until they're an adult. Like, wouldn't that be amazing? Instead of chopping up and putting them in our food, like, hello, I think that's what, like, I think the fact that we're eating them is, like, really bad. Because the proclivity of this industry is babies. So when I say teach, I don't want to say educate because educate been used to indoctrinate people. When I mean teach skills that are necessary to live in the neo-medieval era. How to do your taxes, how to do like a functional math, how to calculate bills, how to calculate tips, and all the stuff that skills that school does not teach you because school basically stifles creativity and creates zombies. And we are educating people who cannot read anymore here in Canada and the United States. And that, my friends, is a very tragic. How to change, how to build things, how to repair something, how to bin and to reuse, reduce, and recycle. All of these different um, um, skills that you need in life, like how to graphic design, like how to use a computer, like all the stuff that school neglects to teach you, like, and how to and train people for the necessary and basically change the education system essentially, but using the child sex trafficking industry to change it first. Now, when you teach, you can also employ skills such as dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT, CBT, ACT, which is kindness commitment therapy. I think ACT, acceptance commitment therapy. There it is. And you can employ distress tolerance, emotional regulation, and you can basically hand the skills to those children who are being boinked, okay, to like cope with what's happening in a healthy way. Also teaching them how to be joyful, so gratitude, positivity. So what are the good things in the situation? Well, I'm not starving and I'm not chained up and I'm not being irreparably burnt, beaten, or terrorized. You know, that's a good thing. And these skills would create this and so much more, such as spirituality, will create healthy, whole individuals that are not easily manipulated. Like you can teach individuality, you can teach a whole bunch of things the school doesn't teach you, along with the necessary skills to live in a modern day world. How to do your taxes, how to do functional math, how to the things you actually need. Now, I am not an education specialist. I don't. Also, what I mean by spirituality and art, well, a good coping mechanism is art. And usually people who have been hurt a lot can make pretty amazing art. Okay, some pretty spectacular stuff that really transcends everything. And spirituality meaning not religion, but a connection to your God, the God of your choosing, and of your like respect. I like to say that remember that there's an overarching God that created us in their image, loves us unconditionally, and does not judge. And this God and spirituality meaning a connection to like the inner self, because the body is a reflection of the universe. And we need to teach not only necessary skills, coping skills on a mental health level, but spirituality to connect us back to the earth, back to like our God image, our God-like self, because we are gods in our own right that create gods in their own right. That's spectacular. And fun fact, we are more related to bonobos, which are the boinking apes that keep the peace by boinking a lot, than we are to chimpanzees, who are aggressive. They only chose chimpanzees because they have a patriarchal structure. Now, again, teach spirituality, a wholeness, a oneness, a connectivity to something higher than yourself, bigger than ourselves, something that loves us. And if you want to call it the universe, and say the universe. If you want to say creator, you say creator. If you want to believe that God is a rock, then so be it. A God of your own choosing. But some sort of spirituality. I would also teach tarot, magic, and actual magic, okay? And good magic, not evil magic. I mean, like, that can be outlawed or whatever. But definitely teach practices and magic and healing, like Reiki and the mudras and meditation and all of those things that connect us to the higher being and connect us to our divinity. Okay, what was I going to say? We need to remember that in 20 years, I would have to say that in 20 years, we would have the first generation of young people who would be trained under a good intended industry. And in doing so, you'd create the first generation that would probably be happier, healthier, safer, and much more creative, much more expressive, much more healthy, and much more joyful. And within 40 years, we would have an instant increase in prosperity. Now, if we backed our currency by gold and every other currency by commodity, we can literally become the bank, Canada at least. And so the next part is financial. Financial meaning one of the requirements is that 50% of everything that child generates goes into a savings account, which then goes into an investment account, which then goes into that investment firm on a provincial or state level, if not municipal, provincial and federal here in Canada, but and then for each country there'd be an overarching investment firm that would it's a hierarchy, and the overarching investment firms would then invest in things like infrastructure, building transit, building housing. I mean, you can set up the different trust accounts essentially. And so not only does 50% of savings go into a savings account, so you also have cash to draw from. Let's say we create contracts, like 5 years in the industry, and that family in Asia only would like to say 7 years. Well, in 7 years, they could earn enough money that when they come out of slavery, their family also gets elevated out of poverty. So, like a new chicken or like a goat or a bunch of chickens or like an investment that would elevate them from their privilege level to another privilege level, creating economic development. Another idea that I have is, like I said, investing in infrastructure. So we could have the child sex trafficking industry, who in Canada we are paying for, by the way. We could have the child sex trafficking industry building transit for us. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Imagine we could eliminate taxes from how much money we're making, the government is making right now. This government must be filthy loaded, or at least the people in the child sex trafficking industry are, because this city is so boinky oinky. Anyways, So, so I want to clarify. When I use the word we and to us and like speaking in like the royal we, like I'm speaking in the royal we's and the royal us's, because at some point, if I am part of the team that will then change the child sex trafficking industry, of course I would be saying we. Okay? No, I'm not involved in the child sex trafficking industry. I'm just a person who happens to see a lot of it in where I live, in my city and around me. However, I do not participate. I do not believe in boinking babies. I'm completely against it. I just think that we have to accept some things and we have to move forward in a way that accepts that it's always going to be there because it's as old as prostitution, and that is the oldest thing in the world. I mean, it completely engulfs at least the Western world, at least North America. And I think, and we also need to realize that when you get rid of one, 3 more will pop up in its place. They'll just be replaced. Okay? And I don't know if that's true or not because none of my theories have been tested. Okay? And I truly believe if you have a better idea of what the sex trafficking industry could be or are even thinking about it. I mean, how many people think about the child sex trafficking industry? I would certainly guess to say not many. But we need to think about these things because we need to accept that it is A, there, and B, it needs to be like well intended with good action and good follow through. It should be enhancing, not deceptive and deceiving and just destructive. Because when you do evil intent, have evil action and evil follow through, there is nothing but destruction. You can only go so far with growth and change and all these new things and interests until you get to a point where it just ends up in destruction. When you do good with good action, good follow through, and good intentions, and especially the setting the good intentions, you have perpetual growth, perpetual wellness, perpetual human race, and a happy human race. So I think that we have to look at it and say it's going to be there. We have to accept some things and change what we can in hopes to diminish the interest in little kids. Diminish, I don't want to say pedophilia, but I would say diminish a minor attraction. Diminish the need to have children as a sexual object. This is what I'm aiming for because we have to get rid of torture, ritualized sacrifices, because that only supplies these like evil magicians and wizards and witches with their supply of like spirits to sacrifice to. And a lot of this comes into a spirituality point, which I also agree we should be teaching. Because art, spirituality, creativity, spirituality will always deliver better results, as well as encouragement, compassion, and empathy, integrity, respect, and dignity. The child sex trafficking industry is so backwards and so opposite, so inversed, that we need to flip the inverse and make it right again. Okay, because it's inversive. And it's inversing our entire society. It's inversing our entire purpose and inversing our humanity. Because most people are angry nowadays because child sex terrorism and being terrorized and screaming for hours while being boinked by 5 different men at a time, or being tied up and boinked until you're ripped open and then bleed out is horrific. It's vile. It's heinously cruel. And that is what I'm here to prevent and stop. By this plan, I do not mean I, and I do not mean we. I mean the royal we. I'm not planning this. I am not trying to actively make this happen. I have thought of this plan to benefit the whole world. Because if you were to egregiously change the intentions, action, and follow through of this particular organization, you have complete power of the world, and you have the power within 20 years to have the first generation raised on the new techniques, and the first generation to be so much happier, so much more prosperous, and so much more better equipped to handle a busy modern world or a busy neo-medieval day, and fully equipped to handle a neo-medieval day, which is not easy.